Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Red River Roundup presented by the Pelican Sports Report right here on 446 Sports. We're brought to you by the Gridiron USA All-American Game, and this is episode 6 of the Roundup. We're through 5 weeks of regular season football here in the state of Louisiana and saw a lot of districts that kicked off district play last night. Some teams still waiting to get into district play, which will pretty much be in full swing next week. Got a lot of homecoming games, a few senior nights here around the area, and some really surprising scores that I got back on Friday night. And, you know, kind of seeing it's natural as fans to kind of go from what happened last year. What do you think will happen again the next year? This Team A beat Team C, so Team B has no chance. But just like the beauty of football shows us that anything surprising can happen. We've got a packed show today coming up in a few minutes. We've got Tuerlings Catholic head coach Michael Courville will join us. Menard head coach David Perkins will join us later in the hour. We'll hear from Mike MacMillan with the Northshore Sports Report, Northshore Prep Report. Chaston Tavares doing Southwest Louisiana for Chaston Tavares Sports, and Jace LeJeune will join us from Gridiron Football Group to cover the Baton Rouge area and really everything that we can get to around the state. A few headlines: the Ruston Bearcats go down last night, their first loss of the season, and something that they didn't do a lot of last season, which was losing in the regular season. They take on another out-of-state matchup. And they fall to Stephenville, Texas. That was a neutral site game, but Bearcats with their first loss of the regular season. The other finalist in that bracket last year, Division I non-select, the Central Wildcats, they fall to the Knights of Lafayette Christian. Surprising game there. While Central's been on a roll there the past several months, and they go down to the Knights. Sinlaw game that was here on 446 Sports, the Tioga Indians get a win over the Gina Giants, previously undefeated Gina, and a team that is a big part of that non-select Division III bracket. Tioga's been able to put up a lot of points on offense, and under first-year head coach Dan Chrisman, they get a big win over Gina last night. We talked about district a little bit. Next week will be a big matchup between Ashe and West Monroe. The Rebels got a shutout win last night in non-district before they match up with the Trojans next week. Ashe also got a shutout victory, I believe their second of the season, over Manny. Alex Fontenot had 3 touchdowns. Carson Sellers, I don't think, had an incomplete pass. And as usual, similar to what they did in their previous shutout victory, special teams was a big part of Ashe's success as well. Take a look.
The Sabine State Bank player of the game over there too.
Yes, sir.
That snap is blocked up the middle. Good piece of up the middle. Got a scoop and score potential here. It's up and it's into the end zone, and that is a touchdown.
So the Trojans with big plays on offense, defense, and special teams. Again, they get a road win going over to Sabine Parish and taking down the Manny Tigers, shutting them out. And again, they'll have a big matchup with West Monroe next week, who also got a shutout. Ouachita Parish went to Franklin Parish and got a win there. So the Lions stay undefeated. They continue to play well, continue to flex their muscles around the north part of the state. And, whether you like it or not, they'll be a part of that District 2-5A battle. Neville, with a good bounce-back win over Sterlington. They previously were on a 2-game losing streak. Sterlington Panthers, defending champs. That's a matchup that, is always a good one, whether it's Jamboree or regular season. But the Tigers over the Panthers last night. And then on Thursday night, the Squirrel Bowl. We'll talk with Coach David Perkins later in the show. But the Menard Eagles get a big shutout victory over the Buckeye Panthers. That was right here on 446 Sports as well. So we've got, through 5 weeks, we've got several teams that are undefeated, that are 5-0 through the first 5 weeks of the season. And one of those teams is the Rebels of Tuerlings Catholics. And we are thrilled this morning to have head coach Michael Courville join us. And Coach Courville, senior night last night. Senior leadership has been a big part of your first year here with this program, and I'm sure it was a great evening to not only see those seniors get the recognition, but a lot of your key guys from that class, contribute to the win last night.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Marshall. Absolutely, man. The seniors, with it being senior night, sometimes you worry about maybe a lack of focus or something like that. But really a special group. The guys were locked in from the start to the finish, and was really proud. Towards the end, we got some of the younger guys in there, and they were the biggest, assistant coaches. I don't want to say cheerleaders, but guys that were really coaching up the younger guys, and it really was a great night overall for the Rebels.
Just looking at that at senior night event, and you mentioned, sometimes it can be a distraction, but two things about kind of where you are with your program right now. Number one, this is early in the season, so those seniors, look, there's no nostalgia in week 5. They are looking forward. They're not looking back at the previous, previous years in their career. And then also just the role that the Rebels are on right now, having that, top 5, top 3, depending on which poll you look at, ranking, and also still, like mentioned, still going undefeated. So while senior night was a time to celebrate, of course, I'm sure the focus was on Como, and then now it's on to the next week.
Right. You know what I'm saying? We've kind of, put senior night kind of in the middle for a reason, kind of get that not out of the way, but, kind of get, like you said, not much nostalgia. It's kind of right in the middle, obviously right in the middle of the season. And a great night just to honor those guys, with homecoming coming up, different things, where it was really just focused on the seniors and not just football, cheer, dance, all those good things cross country. So it was a great night. Again, like what I mentioned, with it being senior night, and you mentioned rain, and now it's, put that in the past and move on for the Rain Wolves.
Yeah, and of course, this being your chance to put your mark on this program here in your first year as head coach, a lot of your conversation, Coach, I'm sure that from wherever you've been on the media, from your coach's show on Monday night, and even last spring, when you took the job, has been a lot about your background, your legacy, the coaches that you worked with, family, coaches that you played for when you were at Tuerlings. So with, again, week 5, we've talked a lot about your background, what brought you to this job, and the history of, football in that part of the state, especially with, what your dad was able to do, bringing state championships to Lafayette. But you're a head coach. I've been a head coach before. You're right in the middle of the regular season. So now your focus is forward. All the talk has been about your arrival in Tuerlings and what you mean to that program. But I'm sure now that a lot of your focus wants to be, what do we do to win week 6?
Right. So a lot of that was kind of, preseason, how you want to view it, as far as, new coach. But like you said, we're already 5 games in. So that's kind of I've kind of got a little bit of experience now under my belt. Why not might be a full season, at least a half of a season. And it's been a great start for us. And we have the kids believing in the program that we want to establish. So I think it's been a great start, and obviously want to keep it going as we get into the heart of district, and into the playoffs.
You're of course, you're used to being around winning programs, and to get an opportunity like this, you find a lot when you're looking for that first head coaching job. Sometimes sometimes the spots where there's an opening is somewhere where there's not a lot of tradition, there's not a lot of culture, that program hasn't been built. You came into this job, particularly with this particular group of guys, for the most part, 10 wins last season between regular season and playoffs. The hype started early on. The Rebels were ranked, before the Jamboree even took place. And so far, y'all have been able to live up to that as far as the win column goes. But you're very used to, between Catholic High and the other places you've been, you're used to the playoffs being a discussion from summer workouts. What's it been as a head coach? What's it been like this season to have to maintain a ship that's moving quite well, even before you got here?
Right. I said that when I got hired. A lot of times, like you mentioned, when you take a new head coaching job, it's normally something that's bad, and that's certainly not the case. This team was 10-2 and made it to the quarterfinals in Division I Select, which it's kind of hard to argue that's not the toughest bracket in the state and one of the hardest in the country. So, I didn't create the tradition here. Coach Sonny did that, and Coach Dane following. I'm just trying to build on that and keep that going. You mentioned being part of winning programs at Catholic and Karen Crow, and one of the things that I learned there and trying to establish here is that we work, the whole year, with 12 months out of the year, to be at our best in November and December. So we had the kids believe in that, and I had to tell them, on Wednesday, guys, today's October 1st. November is next month, so we need to start really working to be at our best. When our best is needed, and that's the focus of the program. And I thought last night was a good step towards that direction.
You were able to spend some time with this team, going back to the spring of last year before you were, all the way on campus. And you mentioned, not building tradition, just trying to, to maintain what you believe works for Tuerlings. But where have you seen your individual impact in the 6, 7, 8 months that you've been leading these guys?
Our mantra is together. That's our thing, is the word together. And I just feel like I've come in with that mindset of having, not only the football program being all, being tied and being all together, but the entire school community. And I felt, through the start of the school year, going back to the summer and everything, that we're doing a pretty good job of having the unity. We have really good staff unity, and we have really, really good buy-in from the kids. So I just think that the word together and it kind of becoming more of not just a football thing, but a Tuerlings thing has been great so far.
Being a former player in that area, I'm sure it's been interesting, since you graduated and was, playing in college. Lafayette in particular, from a football standpoint, has, gone through some very noticeable changes. Southside now kind of emerging as a program to be reckoned with a state championship coach there. Hunter Landry moving over from LCA to Lafayette Renaissance. So you're kind of seeing the landscape of Lafayette football change a little bit since you were in pads. And one of the reasons why 446 Sports is, so happy to be part of this community. But I know that, you've got to worry about district in your own bracket, but what's it like being a part of, kind of Lafayette having its own league of talented programs?
Right. I kind of joke, but I mean, I do think we probably have too many high schools here in Lafayette. It kind of takes some of the talent. It's really spread out and diverse throughout the community. But, we pride ourselves in the Lafayette area of having top-notch football. And it's a disappointment if we don't have multiple teams in the area, deep into the playoffs. So what we just kind of said that we have here, we have a good community. A lot of the coaches, we all work together and have good friendships and really have built a bond within the Acadiana area, and we're certainly proud of the football that we have here in South Louisiana.
For the most part, like we said, you turn your focus to District 4-4A. You'll have an out-of-district matchup with Coach McPherson and East Ascension there later in the year, and I think that backs up to a game with St. Thomas More, who's always a challenge. If the Rebels come out on top of this district, it'll be because what?
I just think it'd be because of our unity, and in the past they've had chances to win it and just kind of hasn't worked out for whatever reason. I just want to make sure that if we don't come out on top, it's just because that teams are better than us, not something that we didn't do or we just got beat. I just want to make sure that we're firing on all cylinders, and like I mentioned a few minutes ago, just we want to be at our best in November and December, and if we want to win a title of district champions, all right, we need to be at our best in November.
Together and tradition, those types of things are exactly what's sustained this program throughout the years. What got them to 10 wins last year, and looks like Coach Courville, you got them rolling through 5 weeks of this season. Don't forget to catch the Coach Courville show Monday nights at Pizza Village right here on 446 Sports. Coach Michael Courville will recap the previous game each week, get you ready for next week. And Tuerlings Catholic Rebels 5-0, senior night win last night, on the road against Rain next week. And Coach Courville, we appreciate your time so much. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Marshall. I really appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Yeah, the Tuerlings Catholic Rebels off to a 5-0 start and on a roll as they move into District 4 play. Well, moving right over to the Northshore area, we're going to bring on our expert from the Northshore, Mike MacMillan. And Mike, a lot of key games that took place on Thursday. And trying to cover all these things, that's kind of a blessing and a curse because you get a few of them spread out, but so you get to kind of pay a little bit more attention on Thursday. But the wives are usually looking at you like, God, can you take one night off? And also, you kind of lose track of what happens 48 hours later. But gosh, a wild week on the North Shore.
It was. Thursday's usually the day of rest around here, and it was not a day of rest on this Thursday. We had some big games. Between last night and Thursday night, you're from this area, you know this area well. So, Parish Fair week, everything moves around. School's closed, because of the fair. So it was crazy. But, the big game that was in my mind was Hammond at Slidell. Both of those teams were 3-1, Marshall. It went kind of like I thought. Hammond wins 35-28. They stop. I think Slidell was on the 2-yard line as time expired on a 4th down. They ran a quarterback draw and Hammond makes a stop. So Hammond moves to 4-1 on the year. Slidell moves to 3-2. And now everybody's getting into district play, right, for the most part. So huge matchup for Hammond next week at St. Paul's. Last year, Hammond was in a similar situation. They were 4-1, and then they lost. They might have been 5-1, and they lost 3 straight to St. Paul's, Covington, and Mandeville. And those games weren't really close. So, really proud of Coach Buckles and those guys, Coach Page and the Tigers. Great atmosphere in Slidell on Thursday night. They're going to be really good. They've got a really good chance to compete in that district, as does Salmon and Chalmette as well, and Fontainebleau have something to say about it. So, it was an exciting Thursday for sure.
Yeah, St. Paul's took a loss to U-High last night, so that'll be that'll be a really good matchup. Covington, another team that got the win on Thursday. Salmon over Lakeshore as well. At North Shore coming off their big win against Covington, they lost to Mandeville, and I think really the game of the night. You had the luxury of having two between Thursday and Friday. Joel Sumner really with a statement win over Franklinton.
Yeah, that was massive for them. They went in that game number 1 ranked team in 3A. Franklinton's a really good football team. That's a game that Franklinton won last year at the last second, right? So you knew that game was again going to be close. I don't think it dictates anything about Franklinton. In fact, I'm not sure if you're aware, but quarterback Jacob Crane hurt his thumb. He on a throw, he hit a helmet. I did talk to some folks yesterday. The x-rays are negative, which are good, but they're going to see an orthopedist early this week and see how he's doing. So it was pretty swollen. He couldn't grab the ball. So that obviously plays a part in it, but hats off to Sumner. I think they have a really good chance to go make a run this year. As does Franklinton and a few other teams. I think Lakeshore as well. You mentioned that Lakeshore Salmon game. I talked to some folks early in the week, Marshall, and I thought that was a tough matchup for Lakeshore. And it wasn't because of what happened, but I thought the athletes on the outside, it was going to be a tough matchup for Lakeshore. And Salmon threw the ball well. I think DeJohn Howard was like 12 of 15 for over 200 yards. So he threw the ball well. The key to that game was turnovers for Lakeshore. I want to say that Salmon scored 3 of their touchdowns on turnovers, right? Off of turnovers. So that was a big game. Jimmy Chansey, the running back for Salmon, ran the ball well. Brody Loudermilk for Lakeshore, the quarterback, he ran for another, 130, 140 yards. They had a new running back, which it feels like they have 15 of them, but RJ Brown kind of broke out for the first time this year too and ran for 140, 150 yards. So
are these are design running schemes that Loudermilk is executing? It's not necessarily scrambles. They're trying to put them in.
No, if what they did against Northlake last week was quarterback power. It was quarterback power and quarterback sweep, and you just couldn't stop it. And Loudermilk's he's a running back, right? They moved him to quarterback in the summer, and they've been working on the passing game. But he's a big kid. He's a big kid. He's strong. He doesn't have track speed, but he can run, right? So, and in that scheme, Marshall, you know this with their wing T concepts, kind of out of shotgun and stuff. Their offensive line is so good. Their technique is so good that you really have to play sound, disciplined football. And look, kudos to Salmon, right? I think I looked at that game kind of being like the first game of the season against Mandeville. Like, hey, Salmon, can you get over the hump against a team that's really disciplined? Their system as well. They know what they're doing and they do it, and they did. So hats off to Coach Shooter. They moved to 3-2. So really impressive. That Covington game, Marshall, we got to bring that thing up. It's 0-0 at halftime. They once again, I haven't talked to Coach Salter yet, but they once again, they didn't throw the ball really well. I guess efficiency wise. Now, Fussell did hit Jawan Brock, the Texas State commitment, on a few long ones. Brock finally broke out, had a couple big plays. Jacob Pompa, their running back, ran for a couple touchdowns in the fourth quarter. But Fontainebleau's got a pretty good team. Connor Tyson, who's started the season is their safety. He still plays some safety, but he's kind of taken that role as a quarterback, and he's dynamic, man. Like, when the ball's in his hands, he just makes things happen. And I wouldn't want to play him. I'll tell you that.
Pope John Paul keeps getting wins. Their hot start continues, and really up and down that district. There's a lot of regular season wins in that district right now. Are the Jaguars the favorite there, or are there any challengers?
Well, I think it's going to come down to Northlake and Pope John Paul. I really do. It's a game that Northlake won last year, a close game. Pope lost their quarterback, Blaze Rodriguez, who is a baseball commit. He's at UL Lafayette now. He's a tremendous athlete. He was their quarterback. They had a really good tight end that's playing baseball in college now as well. But they've got a running back, Dominic Smith, who missed most of last season. He got hurt in either week 2 or 3 and missed the rest of the season with a knee injury. I don't know what he ran for last night. I'll get those stats either today or tomorrow from Coach Pyatt, but they're running the wing tee very, very well. I think they're sitting at 3-2. Northlake's at 2-2. Northlake's got Kenner Discovery this week, and then next week is a massive game. It's Northlake at Pope John Paul. So that's going to be a big one for that district. STA struggling a little bit. Coach Nunez is doing a really good job over there, kind of recreating that culture at St. Thomas Aquinas. St. Helena lost a really close one to Laranger, and Laranger's a really good football team. They've got, I know you follow our stuff a lot, but they've got a fantastic running back in Ryland James. So the fact that that's a 14-12 game tells you a little bit something about them. And then Independence loses last night. Coach Messina's trying to kind of, get the band back together over there and get that program back on track. But Ponchatoula gets their first win of the season. So really proud of Coach Walters and that group of, continue to fight. And, wins do a lot for those kids, especially when you're putting in all that work, to see it pay off is huge.
Looking, I'll have to bring you south of the lake here for just a second here, because, looking at those brackets from last year, Central goes down last night. Ruston with their first loss of the season. Edna Carr, I believe they take on Brother Martin next week, who had who lost to Rummel last night. Carr. The matchup was there against St. Aug, and Carr handled that one, which probably isn't a huge surprise. I'm not asking you to go up and down Edna Carr's roster, because that can easily be discovered. Is there, if everyone was in one bracket, if it was just a March Madness tournament, is there anyone in the state right now that could keep up with the Cougars?
No,
that's okay. That's the truth.
And that is not a knock on anybody.
No, that's right. Yeah.
I think that the craziest thing about Carr right now, Marshall, is they're always talented and they've always got really good players. I think their coaching staff is extremely underrated. What they do with that group is tremendous. They have a really good system, but what separates them this year is their quarterback. I mean, I think he's in his third year starting. Like, watch him in the pocket. If you can just go watch highlights or turn on huddle, he is so calm. Like, he doesn't even move his feet. He'll take the snap and he'll stand peacefully in the pocket and just throw a dime. And he's got guys all over the field to throw the ball to. I thought this was probably going to be the best matchup in the Catholic League because St. Aug is really good. And that was a good game last night. It wasn't a blowout. St. Aug put up some points. They made some stops. Carr's just really good. I could see, a Catholic scheming things a certain way, right? Because they can play it, a Destrehan that could maybe keep up with them offensively point wise. It's hard to imagine a team that can match them though, score for score, right? That's the hard part because Carr's pretty good on defense too, right? And they're going to get their share of turnovers. So they're dynamic. I hope for their sake everyone stays healthy because they're going to get everybody's best punch every week.
And interesting that it's not, in your opinion, it's not just talent executing and overwhelming people. It's that coaching staff puts them in places, whether it's play call, groupings, whatever it may be. They're putting them in situations where obviously they're succeeding.
Yeah, Marshall. Look, in years past, you'd say, oh, they have a lot of talent, but it doesn't look like really good football, right? Like they just make plays and the Jimmies and Joes do their thing. But you watch the synchrony of the offensive line in the backfield and the receivers and their route concepts. They're clean. Like everything's clean. Everything that they do is precise. That coaching staff has figured out, right, what works for them. And they've been doing it for years and years. And there's continuity there, right? Where some other places have had some changes, there's continuity there. And that
means everything. Yeah.
Yeah. In today's world of high school sports in general, I was talking to a administrator earlier this week about this. I don't know when it became winning is everything in high school sports, because that's really not the goal of high school sports. It's developing young people. But look around, administrators, and look at these teams that are really good. There's continuity there. Like those coaches haven't stepped on campus and been great, but those guys are there for a while, and it works. It's a testament to success.
Yeah, no, I do think if I can give an opinion here, I think having eight trophies in the Superdome probably lends to that winning is everything, because you got a shot. Almost every campus has a shot. So, so not getting there is a disappointment. But Carr's been able to get there, and all the credit to him. Before we go, Mike, anything that I missed from the North Shore, or any games that y'all were covering this weekend?
Yeah, but a couple other big games on the South Shore. This week, St. James beat St. Charles on a last-second pass.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw the highlight. Yeah.
Look, poor defensive back. I mean, he plays it perfectly, right? The ball just goes in the air. It lands.
That's what Villanueva does.
Yeah.
All 5.5 feet of him.
So good. There's another player here in Hammond, Reginald Monroe. He had another 2 touchdown receptions last night. You've seen us put some stuff out on him. He's a dynamic returner, but he had a couple touchdowns against Slidell, and he's another 5'7", 150-pound player who can run. Destrehan gets a big win over Terrebonne. That matchup was bigger than I think a lot of people realize.
Yeah, district opener.
As a district opener, and Terrebonne's a good team. Terrebonne absolutely annihilated St. James a couple weeks ago, so that went well. Big on the North Shore this coming week, Lakeshore and Franklinton matchup, massive in District 7 4A. St. Paul's hosts Hammond. That's another big one. And then to me, and I was looking at this last night, and I'm thinking, okay, well, here we are. I feel like we're in like week 2 or 3, right? And Covington Mandeville Friday night. So it's
pick one.
here we go, right? It's the fireworks are going to start and things are going to separate. We'll have our district standings out later today, updated district standings. We'll put our probably rankings out tomorrow, and then we'll have all our matchups and stats for players. But it's been a fantastic first half of the season. Luckily everyone's kind of been healthy. We'll see what happens with Jacob Crane over at Franklinton, but prayers for him. Slidell lost probably their third best receiver, probably for the season, broke his foot on Friday night. So that's a big loss for them. Birdlow and Carlos Flemings Jr. are still there, but having that third guy helps a lot. He's made some big plays this year, so that'll help. But yeah, I mean, it's another fantastic, week of Friday night football in general. I thank you again for allowing me to come on here. I love what you guys do and what Doug does at 466. It's or 446. It's great to be able to kind of follow everything around the state with some ease, right?
Yeah, well, we certainly appreciate you filling us in on the North Shore, and I even bring you into the river parishes and down in the Crescent City a little bit too. And you always got something for us. Check out the North Shore Prep Report, Facebook, X, anywhere on the web. Just search for North Shore Prep Report. Mike MacMillan and that crew does a great job with stats, highlighting guys that are balling around the North Shore. And no matter what team you follow down there, they probably know more about it than you realize. So, Mike, we thank you so much. Congrats on the win last night on the sidelines, and enjoy the Saturday, sir.
Hey, man, enjoy it. I'm going to go make this third cup of coffee here, and I got a tea time at 10 o'clock. So
there you go. Look, we're proud of you.
Thank you, my man. Appreciate it.
Thanks to Mike from the North Shore Prep Report. Had another, similarly to North Shore, the Lake Charles area had a lot of games that took place on Thursday, and really some key games too. So we'll bring on Chaston Tavares, who covers athletics in the Lake Charles area, and from a mobile on the move this morning, Chaston, as we all are on football season. But didn't get a chance to talk to you last week about Iowa. Iowa was able to go on the road and get a win at Wassman. So that was really key for them to stay undefeated. They get a win again this weekend as they move through the regular season. And also another team that you mentioned could possibly go undefeated was Kinder. But Iowa really right now is doing everything, Chaston, that you predicted they might be able to do in the regular season.
Yeah, look, thanks for having me on. Still 5 unbeatens in the Southwest Louisiana area. You're looking at, Iowa, as we talked about, Grand Lake, Kinder, something about that Hornet logo, that Yellow Jacket logo that's got teams undefeated. Lake Arthur, 5-0 for the first time, I believe, since 2011. Hamilton Christian, they had a bye week this week. They are still unbeaten. Next week, things are going to change a little bit because Hamilton Christian and Grand Lake, battle of unbeaten. A game that could pretty much decide that district. That'll take place next week in an exciting one. But look, the Kinder Yellow Jackets, they've continued to roll. That game with Logansport last night was a close back and forth affair, and Kinder ends up pulling away late. But look, Isaiah Thomas, if you haven't gotten a chance to watch him, he's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I got to watch Isaiah in the quarterfinal game last year when they hosted Union. And I've covered Logansport. That's a semifinal team in Division IV. That's a really good program with a lot of good athletes. So any win against Logansport is a good one. So that's a quality dub for Kinder. Y'all covered Lafayette and Sam Houston. And, listening to, in particular, both coaches on the Pigskin preview, Lafayette, you kind of got the sense that, that's a coaching staff that can make an impact immediately on that program, having alumni on the staff and really, in a very crowded Lafayette football scene, there can be some challenges there. But the Mighty Lions get a 7-point win over Sam Houston last night. And, really, judging by the score, a quality football game.
Holy smokes. Absolute chaos. We get 21 points in the first 4 minutes of the football game. It's 14-7. Lafayette's on top. Sam Houston has to punt the football. They get a 3-and-out. Lafayette goes up 2 touchdowns. You're like, oh, no, Sam Houston's not going to be able to stop Lafayette. And Sam Houston notched it up on the defensive side of the football. I was impressed with the adjustments they were able to make. They came out. It was, again, still a one-score football game at halftime, and 21-14, I believe, was the halftime score. And look, Sam Houston was able to Sam Houston had the football twice inside of the 15-yard line, down 2 possessions in the second half, and we're not able to get anything inside of the 15-yard line. So the chaos really happens in the fourth quarter. Again, 2-score game. Sam Houston gets back-to-back scores. They score with 10 minutes to go to tie the football game up. Lafayette kind of goes on a long, methodical drive. It gets up 3rd and 8. They chew up nearly 9 minutes of clock in going the span of about 50 yards, which was wild. They get the football down at about the 39-yard line. 3rd down and 8. Sam Houston with a chance to get off the football field, and with 30 seconds left in the game, and potentially, have a few seconds to maybe try and win it, maybe even send it into overtime. Look, they hook up for a big touchdown pass with 22 seconds left, but that wouldn't even be the most chaotic part. Sam Houston then, with 3 timeouts, would get the football back, and they were able to get the ball inside of the 50-yard line at the 49 with like 10 seconds. The quarterback, Gavin Rowe, slips down. They have to burn a timeout. They've only got 3 seconds or 4 seconds left in the football game, and you're thinking, okay, it's a heave towards the end zone. Bring your best hands on, and somebody got to make a play. And holy smokes, Sam Houston lofts the football up. Gavin Rowe didn't have enough to get it there. It's tipped in the air. Sam Houston catches it at the 1-yard line, and they roll him down. There was a little bit of controversy whether he reached the ball beyond the pylon. It seemed like there was a lot of people who thought he reached the ball across the pylon. Official said he was down at the 1-yard line, so their comeback hopes fell just short. But my goodness, what a football game. We've had a couple of chaotic ones this year.
You picked DeRidder over Jennings. I think you might have been the Lone Ranger in that pick. And with DeRidder, being able to, you mentioned earlier this week on the preview show, dealing with some injuries early on in the season, but able to hang there and give Jennings a good game. Where do you see Jennings as, compared to years past and what we're used to out of that program?
Look, they're playing better. I saw them week 1 against Iowa, and it just did not look great. They're starting to figure it out on the offensive side of the football. Look, that DeRidder game in particular, it's a strange one to me. I watched DeRidder this last week, and they, were able to get away with a 24-20 win over Westlake last week. But that game at halftime was 14-7 DeRidder. I tune in to start the third quarter, and it's 14-14. Jennings scored. I tune in literally 6 minutes later, and I hear the announcer go, DeRidder needing to get some scores here, down 3 touchdowns. So the wheels kind of fell off, it seemed like, there for the Dragons. But I thought I had something cooking with that Dragons pick'em, but I think I've picked against Jennings twice now this year. So I don't think I've got very many friends down there.
Look, but you've got admirers, bold picks. Heroes get remembered, legends never die.
I'm making a comeback on those pick'ems. We talked a couple of weeks ago, and I told you, I was like, don't follow my picks. I've only missed 1 pick the last 2 weeks, so I'm just saying.
Look, hey, you're brave enough to put them out there, and we respect you for that. One game you did pick correctly was Southside over Barb, but Barb able to hang in there. They've had a bit of a rough go of it through 5 weeks, but hanging in there with Coach Curtis's Sharks. Is there anything positive the Bucks can take from that game?
Look, it's the defensive side of the football that has struggled. We know they've got the offense. It's defensively, they just can't stop much right now. And it's a little shocking to me. I thought they were going to be a little bit better on the defensive side of the football. You knew what they had on the offensive side with Jalandon Gray and Sawyer Kuipers and so on and so forth. But It hasn't panned out that way. They've been in a lot of these football games. Look, that was back and forth into the fourth quarter. I think it was 28-24. They just kept trading scores. I think one moment I made a comment in the fourth quarter. Every time we looked down, the score was changing, and I went, "Well, that's barb football." And ultimately, that is it. They can score. It's just the defensive side of the football they just don't have it right now. And look, that's a good Southside team who, with Jess Curtis, they want to run the football. They kind of want to play bully ball. And look, they've kind of got the hand up there in the district, and in a district that this year kind of looked like it was going to be a little bit down, but Karen Crow, Acadiana, boy, they feel like they are right back to where they normally are.
Yeah, Acadiana has picked things up here recently. You like Hamilton coming off a bye week next week, going into I think they take on Grand Lake, but they're with a week this week to kind of hang back and rest. You like the Warriors moving through district?
Yeah, look, the next 2 weeks are big for them. It's Grand Lake and then Elton back to back. So you've got a Grand Lake team who's undefeated. Elton's lost one game, but it's good. Look, they got a tough task in trying to stop McKellan Lemoyne in 2 weeks. Oh my goodness, that guy! I don't know if I have updated stats from last night from him. Let me check.
Yeah,
here.
I know he was leading the state through. I think he had almost 1,000 through 3 weeks, and then just had a meager game in week 4 where he had. They held him, under 300 yards rushing.
Yeah, going into the week last week, he had 1,100 yards, and his worst game of the year was last week. 5 carries, 141 yards, 4 touchdowns on 5 carries.
Have you seen him play this year or any time recently?
I have not. I'm hoping to see him here in a couple of weeks, but yeah, he's a blast to watch. So look, those are the those are the 3 horses there in that district, and so Grand Lake's going to be tested over the next couple of weeks. This week will be a big challenge for him. Grand Lake kind of struggled with DeQuincy this last week. DeQuincy's been playing better football, but it'll be interesting to kind of see that game over the next 2 weeks and see how Hamilton handles it.
And Cowboys are at home today. Is that correct?
Yeah, they are.
There you go.
That's how my life lives.
Look, there's in this business, there's only one thing busier than Friday, and that's Saturday. So,
yes, it is.
Chaston's on the move again. He does a great job of covering the Lake area, not only high school but McNeese State as well. Catch them every week. Pigskin Preview, Chaston Tavares Sports. It's up there for you to find. They'll get you caught up from every game in that area, from the walk-ons there in Lake Charles with Chaston Tavares, Patrick Fry. They typically will meet with a couple coaches each week, either in person or on the phone, and a lot of good matchups in the Lake area next week. So, Chaston, we certainly appreciate your time this morning. Have a good game with Cowboys today, and hopefully we can talk to you next week and recap some more chaos in the Lake area.
That is it. Thanks, guys, for having me.
Thank you, Chaston. Chaston Bars, they had the Sam Houston and Lafayette game last night, and a lot of good football being played down there so far. We are now going to speak with Jace LeJeune from the Gridiron Football Group. And Jace, bring you on a little bit early because, gosh, like we said at the beginning of the show, the action this week started at about 7:03 on Thursday evening. I believe you were at the Jewel Sumner and Franklinton game.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about that with Mike earlier in the show, but first of all, a really impressive win for Jewel Sumner. Franklinton, I believe it was 2 overtime games 2 years in a row, going back to back with this rivalry. So Franklinton, they can shake this off and move forward with their team as they move into district. But Jewel Sumner officially has my attention, and tell me why they deserve to keep it.
Yeah, Marshall. Jewel Sumner's a really good football team. Keep in mind, last year that this was a team that went to the quarterfinals for the first time in program history, and then won 10 games for the third time in program history last year. So this is a team that you return a lot of those guys, those key guys from last year, from that season. And they have a lot of really good players. I mean, Jamon Dyson is a running back, linebacker for them, kind of sets the tone for them offensively, defensively. Jeremiah Brooks, he's the other back. We know about Jules Sumner. They're going to pound you. You're going to come away bruised, battered, and everything when you're playing Jules Sumner. They're a physical football team, and they had a great game plan. You're playing Franklinton. Franklinton's got a lot of really good athletes. Their quarterback, Jacob Crane, is one of the best in the entire state, one of the best quarterbacks in the state. DeMicus McLean's a really great wide receiver. They're going to throw the football, and they're going to be really explosive on offense. So they did a great job of playing keep away. I mean, their first drive, they took half the first quarter off the clock and played keep away, basically, with Franklinton. And the game was more low scoring than last year. There's a lot more high scoring last year in that one. But Jules Sumner kind of leaned on their game plan and their style of football. I mean, came out victorious and were able to get the win in overtime. Eli Nealon, their quarterback, who moved from tight end to quarterback. He's about 6'4". So when it's 4th and goal at the 1 yard line, what do? You do a quarterback sneak with your 6'4" quarterback, and they're able to get it in and get the touchdown. Now Jacob Crane did injure his throwing hand late in that football game, and I'm sure that gave the momentum towards Jules Sumner, and that really helped them. Jaden Burkhalter is their starting wide receiver. They put him at quarterback, but Jules Sumner was able to corral that and able to get the victory on the road, like you mentioned, overtime last year. Franklinton won that game last year, and remember that was the game that Nick Salter from Maggio. I was at that game too. And post game, he said, "Hey, everybody should be talking about us being the number 1 seed. Like we should be the number 1 ranked team in the polls." Well, this is kind of like the same thing here with Jules Sumner, because they're undefeated now. They get a big win in overtime, and now they're undefeated, saying, "Hey, maybe we should be. We should be number 1." So a big win there for Coach Ross and the Cowboys, and they are for real.
Another Thursday score that kind of surprised me: Denham Springs 41, Southern Lab 14. Was that something that surprised you, having the Kittens go down like that?
A little bit. I know right now they're having some injuries right now. I know Jerry Botley's been their quarterback. He's a really good quarterback, and he's been dealing with some injuries. But Denham Springs, they're a pretty good football team. The Goldman twins, the quarterback, wide receiver, they're both brothers. It really helps when you have that brother chemistry there. But they're a really good football team. Brett Beard has 40 seniors on this football team this year. So, and they're 5A. So, I mean, that really helps as well. You saw Liberty able to beat Southern Lab earlier this year because it helps when you're 5A, the numbers and the depth and everything. Sure. But, don't get discouraged if you're Southern Lab football fan. You're going to be really good. And I think this actually will help you, down the road, especially when we get to the playoffs, Division 4 select playoffs. I think this will really help you. And Southern Lab is still in a pretty good position. They're going to still be in the thick of things once we really get into district. And it's kind of crazy. We're kind of entering that point of year as we're heading to district play. We're halfway through the regular season, which is pretty crazy in my opinion. I mean, it's like yesterday you just started the season. Now you're in week 5. So I think that is pretty crazy.
Yeah, well, we talked a little bit about that last night. It's week 5. It's weird to feel like it's the halfway point because for us, we're usually following these teams all the way, well past Thanksgiving. So we're nowhere near done yet. The kind of the game of the week, in my opinion, in the Baton Rouge area last night, Lafayette Christian 55, Central 48. I think the takeaway is not so much, oh goodness, Central lost the game.
Yeah.
But that LCA is, and again, that's not a huge surprise either because they've got trophies all up and down that field house. But what an accomplishment by the Knights to take down the defending champs, 55-48.
Yeah, I came away with basically the same thing you just said, Marshall. I think I came away, just impressed with LCA getting a win like that on the road against a 5A team, a defending state champion in Central. Central was undefeated going into this game as well. And I was really impressed not only with LCA going on the road and beating Central because they are the defending champs and they are still really good and they're in 5A, but how they respond after last week. Remember, they lost their first game of the season to Shaw, and frankly, Shaw handed it to them last week. And so for them to bounce back, go on the road, play Central, win that football game in the fashion that they did, that really told me a lot about this LCA football team. And they're for real. I mean, I saw them play earlier this year against Karen Crow, and they got so many weapons. With Braylon Walker, the quarterback, Brian Allen as well. He was a Tulane commit. Now he's at Oklahoma commit as well. He flipped last week. They got a lot of really good weapons. Their running back is going to be a guy we're going to talk about the next couple of years as well, Ken Ballard. So they got a lot of different weapons. They're really fun to watch, and they're going to be for real. Like, they're going to be. It wouldn't shock me at the slightest that they're in the Superdome at the end of the year, especially you have a win like that. They're looking like, regardless of class, they're looking like a top 5 team in the state.
I don't know if you caught the end of St. James and St. Charles last night. Villanueva with a tip ball. He falls on his back and catches it. And the stadium goes crazy, but he kind of got up like, yeah, sure. That's what I do down here in this end zone. I got to watch the Wildcats last year, 2-time state runner up in their division. But St. Charles too, a tough loss on the road for them, but 2 teams that'll move on to week 6 after a really good game in beautiful downtown Vacherie.
Yeah, that's a great matchup between these 2 teams with St. Charles Catholic and St. James. And these are 2 other teams that would not shock me at the slightest. We see them in the Superdome at the end of the year. And St. James, that was a big win for them in the fashion that they did. Last play of the game, like you mentioned, Jaka's Villanueva. I mean, he's a fun player to watch. He's pretty exciting. If you go and watch the St. James game, I mean, he's going to make plays. He's going to make a lot of plays. But for him to just a concentration. I mean, I went back and saw that play. Just a concentration to keep up with it. Usually the ball is bad down like that. You kind of think, oh, it's over. But, I mean, that's just keep on playing until the whistle is over and until the play is over. So, great job being able to catch it off the ricochet and stick with it. And, obviously, that was a game-winning touchdown. But a big score at the end of that one. St. Charles Catholic, that was the first loss of the season. But that doesn't – even though they lost the game on the final play, that doesn't really take anything away from how good they are and – they're back. Last year was a struggle just because of the injuries and had some youth on St. Charles Catholic's team last year, but they're going to be right in it. They're back. Wayne signed his first couple of years after taking over Frank Monica. All he's done was go to the Superdome and win. So, I mean, they're going to be right back in that discussion for sure.
U-High gets a win over 5A St. Paul's last night, 35-25. A lot of eyes have been on Lamar Brown this season. Obviously, the LSU recruit. And off the top of my head, I can't remember which actually position he's committed there, but he's been playing both sides of the ball on that line. What kind of impact has he made for the Cubs this season?
Well, obviously, I mean, he's the number 1 player ranked in the state of Louisiana by a lot of outlets that have number 1. And yeah, talking to him, I was actually at his commitment ceremony. I got to talk to him after his commitment, and it looks like he wants to primarily focus on defense for Blake Baker and play on the defensive line. It looks like that's what his focus is, but it's actually the opposite at U-High. He's playing all the time on offense, and then they kind of sprinkle him in on defense, especially when there's like they need a big third down stop, or the defense is a little bit on its heels. Let's put him back in the football game. So try to keep him fresh. Don't play him the entire game, but he does play defense. But he is he's a unicorn. I mean, a guy like that, as big as he is, as quick as he is, that can dominate a game as an offensive lineman, as a defensive lineman. You don't find many guys like that around, and obviously he's had a big impact for the U-High Cubs this year.
Get you out of here on this one. I know that Gridiron football, y'all do a lot with not only scores and highlights and team coverage, but the guys under the helmets, the recruits there. As we've kind of moved going into district, we've got pretty good sample size through 5 weeks. Any players in the area that maybe you didn't pay too much attention to in fall camp, but have really caught your eye through September and October?
Yeah, I really, there's a couple of guys that have caught my eye just through the state that have really impressed me. On the Baton Rouge area, a guy that a lot of people need to pay attention to. His name is Caleb Green. He's from Donaldsonville. And I mean, we have some of our call it Gridiron Football Player of the Week. He hasn't won it, but every single week he's getting one game at 8 TFLs. I mean, you don't see much of that. 8 TFLs one game. He has 5 sacks another game, 4 sacks another game. And Donaldsonville, man, is I believe they're undefeated still. I believe they're 5-0, and they are looking really, really good to start the season. And he's already gotten attention. He's only an upcoming junior, but he's already gotten offers already. So DeKale Green is a guy to keep an eye out for. Another guy I want to give a shout out to. He's actually from Elton High School, so a little bit outside the Baton Rouge area. But McKeown Lemoyne, he's a running back for the Elton Indians. He's already at over 1,000 yards already this season, this is crazy. And McKeown, actually, the reason I want to bring him up too is not only because of the stats he had, but he went to our camp at LCU earlier this offseason. And the LCU coaches really loved him. He was actually the top running back at the camp. So this is a guy that is a really good player. We kind of figured he was going to have a good year entering the year. I don't think I expected 1,000 yards through 5 games. But yeah, he's been really good to start the year. Another guy, I know you have I know you're up in North Louisiana, Marshall, but I mean, Bryce Restovich, man, has been throwing it this year for Loyola College Prep. And then another guy that's been to our camps, and we've done a lot of stuff with him over the off season. And for him, man, the Flyers are really rolling right now offensively.
Yeah, scored 71 last night. Yeah,
right. Exactly, 71 points last night, and then one more in the Baton Rouge area, just because I called his game yesterday against Episcopal. Ascension Catholic, if you were worried about the running back position heading into the season because of having to replace Chad Elsie last year, who played in a Gridiron Bowl game, well, you're still pretty good off because Trevin Simon last night for Ascension Catholic went off against Episcopal. He had 6 touchdowns last night, of 5 rushing, 1 receiving, and it's like when he gets the football, he explodes like a cannon. He's a really good football player for the Bulldogs. They got themselves a bell cow once again, so he's a guy that's had a really good season for the Bulldogs as well.
Jace LeJeune with Gridiron Football USA. Jace, we appreciate it every week. You seem to have it all right off the top of your head. We appreciate your time so much. Get some rest today. Enjoy some college football. We'll talk to you next week, sir.
Absolutely, Marshall. Always a pleasure catching up with you. And, yeah, enjoy your football Saturday.
Thanks, Jace. All right. Appreciate Jace coming on every week and covering Baton Rouge area with us. In our area over the week, we had a Thursday night game here on 446 Sports, the annual Squirrel Bowl between the Eagles of Holy Savior Menard and the Buckeye Panthers. And we're going to bring on Menard's head coach, David Perkins, who's joined us this morning. And Coach, Thursday night, annual rivalry game. Got some questions for you about, how things have gone for you this season and where you're looking throughout the rest of the year. But just take us through the experience. You've had some time to digest it since Thursday, but gosh, what a great rivalry win in the Squirrel Bowl.
Absolutely. Boys were looking forward to the Squirrel Bowl, getting back in competition for it. The Squirrel Bowl is 20 years old this season. We haven't been a part of it for those 20 years, but we were the 2 original schools. So, we had a little break there, and now we're back playing it again. And, we had the opportunity to play it last year also at Buckeye, and they got us at their place, So, we looked at that over the summer, and our guys, they wanted to bring that Squirrel Bowl trophy home to Holy Savior Menard. And, we had it's always on a Thursday night. And I'll tell you what, it sure is good to win on a Thursday night and be able to go to school on a Friday. Last year same thing, but we had to go to school Friday with a defeat. Buckeye beat us, but it was a great win for us. Our offense kind of exploded something we've been looking for here these first 3 or 4 weeks, and absolutely had a great night that night. It was a great atmosphere. Both teams showed up, and it was a real physical game. And just glad to come out on top. So go Eagles, right?
Yeah, and I want to cover both your offense and your defense. I know in 2023 when you took the job, you spoke about it then. I think you've even talked about it on the airwaves this fall. Is just your philosophy of a tough defensive team, a good, solid, dependable running game where you can control the clock and really just kind of choke the life out of opponents. Particularly on the defensive side, this is, when I think about Coach Perkins' brand of football, Menard, I think of tough, disciplined defense because that's the thing that, or that's one of the things that you want to see first and foremost, whether or not it shows up on the scoreboard in training camp and practice, everything. You want to see your defense execute in the way, that y'all intend. A shutout against Northwood, a shutout against Buckeye, 6 points allowed to St. Mary's, and 6 points allowed to a 3A Abbeville team on the road. Through 5 weeks, you've had 4 games holding opponents to either single digits or nothing at all. Are you impressed through 5 weeks? Are you pleased with what the scoreboard shows defensive-wise, and just overall, how is your defensive outlook for this senior-laden team played out through the first half of the regular season?
And I appreciate you not saying what that other game was. That's a good one right there, that Gina game. But we
covered that one before you came on, Coach.
I appreciate that. But no, that comes from a couple of things. I'm an old school kind of guy. Whenever I was a student at Menard and playing there, and then also just the style of football back then, and I kind of incorporate that a little bit into what we do now. And also by what our roster is. Obviously when I came in, and I said many times that I like to play really tough defense, hold the opponents down to, not scoring very much, and playing really, really physical football, something you don't really see a whole lot of these days, a lot of finesse football with the spreads, and a lot of the rules and those type things, but we like to play really physical football. We think that can turn attitudes in a certain way, but now, you got to change a little bit with what your roster tells you, and we've got a really good offensive roster this year, so I've told the coaches and I've told our offensive coaches, Coach Ortiz, Coach Redmond, man, let's open it up a little bit. We're able to run the ball. We're able to throw the ball. We've got a senior quarterback that's been, starting for three years, and that's big in high school football. Jake Vaughn, number 3, he can carry our offense. And we've got the running back, Aiden Moran, another senior. And, of course, we've got number 17 out there, Matthew Hicks, the guy that missed most of last year because of an injury, and the offense is a senior-laden team. We got nine starters on offense. Cutter Knowles, and we've got a lot of speed. So we're doing things a little bit different that you're probably seeing Holy Savior Menard do. Obviously, we're still going to play tough and want to play tough physical defense, and we have this year. But we've opened it up a little bit on offense too, and that's going to help us get those dubs.
And so, in your mind, kind of changing from, saying, look, I've got a few horses in the barn that can allow me to open up the passing game. Does that just mean that play calling changes a little bit this year, or is it just a situation where these guys are able to execute through the air?
Well, all of that, we have changed the play calling a little bit. Obviously, we were focused on the run here the last 2 years and able to do that, especially my first year. That was also a senior-laden team, and that makes a difference. But, in today's football, you got to be able to throw the ball around a little bit to open up the run game. Teams were kind of putting a whole lot of guys in the box, 7, 8, 9 people in the box against us. So we're going to take advantage of that. If they want to go man-to-man on us, I think we've got the guys out there that can get off a man-to-man with the speed. Matthew Hicks, like I said, is a 6'2", 6'3" guy who's got very great athletic ability, you know, can run and jump. And then you're going to know, and then on the opposite side of him, you got number 10, Cutter Knowles, who's a smaller guy, but man, he's really elusive, got great hands, got great speed. And, you know, Jake's got to use all those guys. And when Jake uses all his weapons, you know, including himself, he's a dual threat guy, so he can run or pass. When he's using all those guys, we're usually, you know, running pretty good. And it was showed this past Thursday. So, you know, we got another game coming up this week with a lot of distractions, you know, Oakdale, with it being homecoming. So we're going to kind of keep those guys grounded. But with the seniors, you know, we should be able to do that. And Jake's a great leader, so I'm going to be asking him to do a lot of good things this week as far as preparation goes.
Well, it has been it's been so encouraging to watch what the Eagles have been able to do. You know, as you're 2 or 3 years into this program now, been able to make your mark as a head coach, and I'm sure your assistant coaches and your players and staff have, you know, during this time that you've been the head coach, Menard, have bought into the program that you've tried to install, and so far in the 2025 season, off to a 4-1 start. It looks like the hard work is paying off. So, Coach Perkins, we appreciate your time so much. Good luck in district. I know we've kind of got our eyes on that Kinder game coming up in a few weeks, but I know you've got a good slate of games before that Week 8 matchup within your district. So, again, we appreciate your time so much, and we'll be watching on 446 Sports all season long.
Okay, thank you guys for having us.
Coach David Perkins, the head coach of the Menard Eagles, with a big win in the Squirrel Bowl, 42-0 over the Buckeye Panthers. And we'll keep it rolling here on the Red River Roundup and bring on Caroline McPherson from SEC.com. Good morning, Caroline. And I know your newsletter this week, one of the headlines was Arkansas parting ways with Sam Pittman and bringing back Bobby Ball, bringing back Bobby Petrino, somebody I remember when I was in college watching play. First thing that came to my mind, and I was at Ari Slocum's game last night, so Petrino comes in, and obviously, you know, he's the head coach. He'll probably be calling the plays, but got rid of a lot of coaches on the defensive side of the ball. Arkansas recruits, especially North Louisiana, pretty heavily. I was at Ari Slocum's game last night, watch him have 2 sacks and a 2-point conversion run. So how does this coaching change in Arkansas affect some of the recruiting in Louisiana?
Yeah, so Bobby Petrino, he pretty much let go. I think there was 3 different defensive staff that he let go, and he hired a former NFL assistant. I think his name is Jay Hayes, and he's going to be working with the defensive line. And yeah, like you said, I noticed that yesterday when I was looking at the recruits. They've had 9 decommitments just in the last 19 days, and 7 since Pittman has been let go. And so, yeah, one of those individuals is from Union Parish, which I happen to be from, and his name is Ari Slocum, like he said. But he has 9 other offers. I was looking at that. He has 2 other SEC offers. I think it was Auburn and I wrote it down. Let me look. Auburn and Missouri. But yeah, he posted on Twitter that he's going to be opening his recruiting back up 100%. I think he's a senior this year, so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, that's going to be. It's just a big change, and I think that it's something that is definitely going to affect them recruiting. It already is showing to be that way.
Yeah, and you've got to, you know, we talked a little bit last week about the SEC schedules that were released through 2029. So other, you know, a team like that is, you know, that borders Louisiana and has recruited some of our best high school athletes for a long time, you know, as long as they've been in the SEC. Do you see, you know, the competition within SEC recruiting as it pertains to Louisiana? Do you see that kind of starting to heat up as the coaching carousel starts to spin a little bit?
Yeah, and I think a big role in that is going to be how Arkansas starts to develop after the coaching change. I mean, Bobby Petrino, they still have 7 games remaining and 5 against ranked teams. And so I think that how they rebuild from this is going to play a big role in it. I mean, because you look at other schools that have been or are in the same position, it's going to like change the culture, and it's going to make or break the Arkansas program, in my opinion.
Looking at teams that you talked about a little bit last week, Vanderbilt takes on Alabama today. We've got at least one player from Louisiana on each roster. Had the tight end from the Lake Charles area get in for the first time against Alabama last week, and I don't think it's any coincidence. As soon as the Louisiana player checks into the game, they go and beat Georgia. But we're also, I know you and I have kept an eye on Tate Hamby up in Nashville at Vanderbilt. Hasn't seen the field yet, but once you see kind of these, it's always interesting to me to see when these guys from Louisiana go around the Southeastern Conference and got to make a name for himself. It's kind of starting from scratch. We watch Hamby dominate high school football for probably 4 years if he didn't get more snaps as an 8th grader for his 5th year. But looking at teams like that are able to pull from Louisiana, you can kind of see how Alabama gets contributions and gets a big win right there. I know personally I'm eager to see how Vanderbilt works Hamby into under that defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, he's a linebacker, I'm pretty sure, right? Tate Hamby?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't played any, but I expect probably he's getting into the later years of his collegiate career, and I'm hoping to see a little bit more action from him going into his last few seasons at college. But that's a game I'm really excited for. I am cheering on the Commodores today, if you can't tell. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how these Louisiana athletes are going to keep getting plugged in the SEC.
We've talked a little bit about this, you and I talked a little this week about the website. We got the newsletter, and if you go to SEC.com or follow them on whatever social channels you use, there's a weekly newsletter that comes out with kind of the top headlines in the SEC each week. But Caroline, tell us, we talked about the site last week. What's new there this week, and what have you been working on to kind of develop that brand, See Inside the SEC?
Yeah, so I've been working on this week getting a new section from my website that's going to go up on Sunday when I put my new articles out for the week. And it's going to have a Louisiana section focused on players that are currently in the SEC that have played in Louisiana in high school. And there's also going to be a section where it's next up in the SEC. So athletes that are currently being recruited by SEC schools. And we're going to start from there, and we'll see how it goes. I'm going to find a few athletes each week to kind of focus on them and their games and how that's played out. So I'm really excited to see how that's going to look. And I might even have to add in a few articles about that as well.
I'll get you out here on this one. You're an LSU Tiger. They've had, took the loss last week against Ole Miss. And to your point, Shamliss getting in there and starting instead of Simmons, that seemed to be what made the difference in that game. But I think, that as this LSU offense continues to try to come into their own, I know they had a good game against Southeastern, kind of unlocking some of their scoring. But going into that season, that running back room was full of Louisiana recruits between JT Lindsey, Trey Hawley, Harlan Berry, and Juwan Johnson even getting snaps at running back now. As LSU's offense moves into conference play, you see anything kind of changing there with what they do on offense? It seems like Nussmeier's been battling injuries a lot, or at least one injury, but what's that LSU offense going to look like in conference play?
I think a big part of it is going to have to be, we're going to have to be strong from both sides, offensively and defensively, but we're definitely going to have to get our run game. I know last week Caden Durham was out, so hopefully we'll have everyone healthy and we can put all the pieces together. I'm hoping, as an LSU fan, that's what we want to see. But yeah, like you were saying with Louisiana, I didn't notice until yesterday. I didn't even know that Trades Green was from Louisiana. That was something that I go to LSU and I had no idea. So it was cool to see that. But yeah, we need to get our run game and our passing game. We got to be more, we got to use our brain a little bit more. I know Garrett Nussmeier had a rough week last week. So hopefully we can get it all figured out because, going into the season, they said on College Game Day that LSU predicted LSU to win the national championship, so we can't let them down.
So bye week this week, but again, you're up early, and Saturday's a work day for you. So what's today going to be like for you? What does Saturday look like as you cover the SEC and really all of college football?
Yeah, so I got on here a little later today, so I got to catch a little bit of the beginning of college game day, so that was fun. They're at the Vanderbilt and Alabama game.
Yeah.
But yeah, just watching the games. That game's at 3:30, and there's a lot of good games on today. Florida plays Texas, so Arch Manning will be playing. He's another Louisiana graduate. So just watching some SEC games, and then there's, I think, only like 5 or 6 SEC games today, and so we'll catch a little bit of the other games as well, and then just finding things to write about or things that are interesting and give different takes on them.
And you said a new newsletter drops tomorrow. The site gets updated on Sundays.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's C inside, the letter C inside the SEC.com. Caroline McPherson is the founder and publisher there. If you're a fan of Louisiana high school football, which you are if you're on this show, keep it locked on that website. Caroline will keep you updated on who's balling from the boot and who's being recruited from Louisiana by the SEC. So, Caroline, we will be on the lookout tomorrow for See Inside the SEC.com. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning, and hopefully we can talk to you again soon.
Of course. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yep, you too. I want to thank Caroline McPherson covering See Inside the SEC.com, and thank everyone who spent some time with us today. Coach Michael Courville from Tuerlings Catholic, Mike MacMillan with the Northshore Prep Report, Chaston Tavares with Chaston Tavares Sports in Lake Charles, Jace LeJeune with the Gridiron Football Group and the Gridiron Football Group All-America game, and also Caroline McPherson from See Inside the SEC.com. I want to thank Doug Gann helping us produce this show this morning. He and I have got a busy day. We'll be at LCU before too long calling that game, but a great week 5 in the LHSAA all around the state. The matchups just continue to catch your eye every time when you start to get through one week and look and see who's up next week and some good games. We will be here next Saturday morning at 8 to cover everything in week 6, District 2-5A for sure, as the Trojans look to march through that district again, and all the other teams that are on 446 Sports. You'll want to catch. I know Grant got a win last night. Tioga, again, big win. St. Mary's took a loss on Thursday, but Menard, Ash, Tioga, Grant all get the win on 446 Sports, and we thank all of y'all who tune in and watch that with us every week. Don't forget, next Saturday morning, 8 a.m., the Red River Roundup. Be right here on 446 Sports, and we'll keep it rolling, covering everything that happened in week 6 when we go live for episode 7. So thanks to everyone who joined us again today. You've been watching the Red River Roundup on 446 Sports.